Okay, we should be live now. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know in the chat. I'm going to be checking here to see if everything's working okay. Yep, all right. So what is going on? How's everybody doing? Let me know in the chat. Everything sound okay? All right. Let's see here. We got lots of stuff going on in the gaming industry. To say the least. Let's see here. How's everybody doing? We got Gamers Corner. We got Jeremiah Sigro, little bit of everything. Doka78, Jared Rooks, Citrus 21, Manuel Arroyo, Math PC 40. Yeah, I heard about Joker. That's tomorrow though, right? So that's exciting. No Nintendo Direct though, right? For it, or at least no Direct Mini or whatever. Let's see. So, we got a lot to talk about. What's up, Ernesto? I'm just getting things situated here in the camera and anything. Oh, they did have a Smash video? Okay, I haven't checked it yet, so I'm getting the stream ready and everything. So yeah, cool. Okay. Let's see, we got PlayStation 5 to talk about, Switch Pro to talk about, lots of stuff to talk about. Let me get my links open. So yeah, it was quite a bit of news today from Wired about Sony with Mark Cerny and everything, from them confirming all the PlayStation 5 news that we've been hearing about for so long. Or not news, the rumors and everything. So we got that to talk about, and it's pretty exciting, actually, when you think about it, because in a way, this news is good news for Nintendo and Microsoft, because it kind of gives them a heads up of what the competition is doing over a year in advance. So like they're basically laying it out there, saying, "Hey, we're bringing the goods over a year in advance for you guys to be a heads up about. We don't care what you're doing. We're Sony, and we're going to release our PlayStation 5 in 2020. Here's all the information over a year and a half out, because most likely it's not coming until like 2020 or the holiday of 2020. First of all, I want to say thank you guys so much for all your support on the channel lately. Obviously, everyone's excited about Switch Pro information, right? Myself included. That's like, I think I was talking about before. Those videos are the types of videos I do the best at, I feel. Like, I really like doing those kind of videos. Like what's coming up, things I find, and, information I find and things like that, and sharing that with you guys. So ever since my last live stream, which was, I believe, 2.5 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, the Switch Pro videos I've done 5 of them since then. I got over 107,000 views on those videos. So thank you guys for enjoying that. Obviously, there's been some discussion, of course, and in the comments, there's always stuff like that going on. But it's fun. It's fun to talk about new consoles. And yeah, show me the games. That's true. That is true. You can't have all the spec. You can have all the specs in the world, but not have the games. Just ask Microsoft with Xbox right now. Microsoft could actually have a more powerful console than Sony, but not be as successful because they don't have the games. So that is something to think about. That could be the case with Microsoft. Let's see here, getting all this stuff situated again. chat here. Talk about ray tracing. You said RAR tracing. You mean ray tracing, right? Did you guys see my video back in 2018 about that, about PlayStation 5? I talked about this on Twitter today, and I don't mean to sound, all, hey, look at me, I was right or whatever, but it was just something I have to point out. When you point out something and everyone tells you you're crazy to say that, then obviously I'm going to have to bring it up later when it's proved right. That's just the way things go. So real-time ray tracing was a feature that everyone said that would never happen for the PlayStation 5 and next Xbox. At least in 2018, they were saying that. And I did a video about PlayStation 5 saying that they would do that, actually, because that's kind of where the technology was going. They just did that GDC presentation in 2018 showing real-time ray tracing with that Star Wars demo they had with NVIDIA. Obviously, AMD didn't show anything, but that didn't mean they weren't working on it. Mark Cerny and them said that they've been working on PlayStation 5 for the last 4 years. So obviously they have some type of real-time ray tracing they have for the next generation, because everyone knows that AMD is basically in bed with Sony and Microsoft to make their next-gen consoles. So that's where they're going. And that was confirmed today by Sony, Mark Cerny, that they are doing that. So that's really cool, and it shows that the next generation is really going quickly, actually, and as far as how they're upgrading their visual features for the next generation. So you have Microsoft doing that. Sony doing that along with Microsoft, most likely, because you know that they're going to be doing that along with Sony. There's no way that they're not going to be not adding real-time ray tracing to the Xbox Lockhart or Anaconda, whatever you want to call it. So they'll be doing that. And this is also a Q&A, guys. So you can ask me any questions you want as we go, and I'll try to answer them. I don't know how long I'll be doing the stream. I usually go for a couple hours, though. So sit back and relax, and we're going to talk about everything. So we're going to talk about a lot about the Switch Pro and about the what's going on with that and everything, and all the things we talked about in the last week or two about the Switch Pro, all the information that we've discussed. And we're going to talk about also PlayStation 5 and how this affects the Switch Pro and Switch in general, because there's some interesting things you guys should be aware of about this. Very interesting, actually. So first of all, if you guys haven't heard about the news, basically we got PlayStation 5 was confirmed, real-time ray tracing, 8K support for 8K TVs, which I don't think they're going to be supporting as far as native resolution for games. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think they're going to be basically supporting that resolution for upscaling when those TVs come out. And basically it's just hey, you plug in your console to it, your TV recognizes, or your system recognizes it as an 8K TV. It upscales to that. Doesn't mean the games are running at 8K, though. That's probably not going to happen unless they release a PlayStation 5 Pro to do that, something like that, like 8K checkerboarding. This is all a business, so these guys are going to get your money no matter what, right? They're going to do everything they can to add some kind of feature that's not possible in the current generation, ray tracing. They're going to do whatever they can to get you to spend money on that console. So that's exactly what they're doing here. Ryzen Zen 2 CPU, 7 nanometers. AMD is all about the 7 nanometers right now. Custom variant of Navi, which has not been released. So one key thing about this is that the PlayStation 4 was based, I believe, on a Radeon 7850 or something like that, and that was actually already released to the public on PC, I believe, in late 2011, 2012, early 2012. And then they basically put that same GPU in the PlayStation 4 and released that in the late 2013. So with PlayStation 5, it looks like they're going beyond what AMD has released to the public and going into their future graphics pipelines, which means that this is going to be a significant leap in terms of performance, processing power, feature set. We're going to be seeing things with PlayStation 5 that have not been seen before in a console or even on PC yet, basically, because a lot of things like the RTX 2080 Ti, that's 13.7 teraflops. That is the most powerful graphics card currently on the market that you can buy, really. The rest, I think, are like for developers that they have available that you could buy, but they're like $5,000 or something like that. But they do have the RTX 280 Ti, which is almost 14 teraflops of power, and that barely can do real-time ray tracing at 1080p, 60 frames per second. But that's NVIDIA's solution, you see. AMD's solution, they're all about, making those adjustments and getting all the most bang for your buck and, customizing their APIs in a way that can run on consoles, because obviously they're very experienced in console manufacturing with their custom SoCs. So real-time ray tracing to them may be something completely made differently for the market, basically, in order to make it easier for developers to implement it in their systems or in their games and to make them able to be purchased at a reasonable price. Basically, how NVIDIA is doing it, we don't know exactly all the details, of course, but the way they're doing it for the PC market, you need a lot of raw compute performance for real-time ray tracing. Not saying that you don't need it for the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox. Obviously you do, but quite possibly AMD has a slightly different way they're doing it to make it easier and less costly as far as performance is concerned, because they're shooting for 4K 60 frames per second with real-time ray tracing. You can't do that with even an NVIDIA 280 Ti. You can't even do that right now on PC. So they're doing something there customized that they've obviously been planning for quite a long time, and they're going to be implementing to show you guys, or show us, the gamers, that true next generation leap to get the most money out of the consumer, which is basically how things worked ever since the beginning of time for consoles. So that's what they're doing there. And I brought out, I believe, back then last year, that real-time ray tracing was pretty much going to be the big visual feature of the next generation for graphics. It really enhances the lighting effects. You got true realistic lighting. The way light bounces off objects is basically real. And, the way light reacts to movement, everything is just extremely dynamic. Looks amazing in action when it's on everything on the screen. It really looks quite good if you've seen it. Excuse me. So basically, that's where they're going with, and it's pretty exciting. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that next generation starting pretty quickly and in next year, and you don't have much time to wait, really, to get yourself a PlayStation 5 and next Xbox. And probably that's going to be revealed at E3 for the next Xbox, and then of course more so with PlayStation 5 at the end of the year in a PlayStation event, or a PlayStation, one of their big events that they have, or early in 2020. But they're already talking about it now, so it's pretty interesting. Do you guys have any questions about PlayStation 5 before we continue that you want to talk about? Let me know in the chat. So basically that's where we're going with that. And when they're talking about all this stuff, it's good to keep in mind that it's still going to be about a year and a half away, most likely, till we see PlayStation 5. They also talked about one of the key features is solid state memory that you guys talk about here in the chat, backwards compatibility. So the SSD drive, they say it's a custom-made SSD drive that they have for the console, which is amazing, because they have an example of Spider-Man loading in fast travel in less than a second. And on PlayStation 4 and Spider-Man, it takes 15 seconds to fast travel. in that game, and they cut that down to less than 1 second to fast travel across basically the game world. And that's a big open world, as you've seen that game in action. So that's pretty impressive when you think about it. And the way they were loading the assets and everything almost instantaneously, that's a huge benefit to gaming. It's going to really increase the time you have playing the game instead of waiting for it to load the whole time. PlayStation 4, as you noticed, as time has gone on, loading has been slower and slower and slower the bigger and bigger and bigger these games get. So that SSD is really a huge improvement. So it makes you wonder what Nintendo's going to do as well to get ports from PlayStation 5, right? And also, they said all PlayStation 4 games will be backwards compatible with PlayStation 5. So that's a great news for Sony fans right there. If you already have a PlayStation 4, you upgrade and you don't got to, basically you can trade in your old system, or you can just keep playing the same games in the new system. Any images on how it looks? No, I didn't see any images on PlayStation 5. And price, Mark Cerny brought out in part of that interview that PlayStation is looking to price the PlayStation 5 at a range that is agreeable to gamers, is what he said. So the agreeable range to gamers, that's not $500 like you guys are saying. To me, that would be $399 or less. So if it's agreeable to gamers, I don't think that's $500. So I think $399 is what they're trying to target, even though that might sound impossible due to the technology that we're talking about here. But remember, we're talking about something that could be coming at the end of 2020, right? So it may not be, that much more difficult a year and a half from now at the end of 2020 when they release it. Right now, it sounds crazy, just like it sounded crazy back then in 2018 to even talk about ray tracing. Like, no, that's impossible. That's not true. That's not going to happen. And they're like, yep, it's going to happen. So we'll have to wait and see. And also Sony, you got to watch out for them and their prices, because they basically can take a loss on their hardware too and sell it for any price that they want. So that's something to think about, that they can take a loss if they want to and say if $400 is the price. And then if everyone buys it, when the costs go down to manufacture, they'll end up making that money back the next year. So if they want $399, they'll get $399 whatever way they can. Also, they get very good deals from AMD on their custom design wins. So price is probably not the exact problem for Sony, and they know very well that $599 US is not the way to go. They don't want to be another meme. Like Death Star says, 600 with a launch title. Well, that's pretty expensive. And they remember Xbox One also was $499. That didn't really go that great at launch either for Xbox. So got to think about that too. All right. Did Xenoblade X do fast loading? I don't recall any fast loading in Xenoblade Chronicles X. It did load pretty quick, but the game was different, on Wii U. They made it differently. So sometimes the way development is during the software process, they can make a game load faster just from the assets themselves and how they design the game to load. So that's also a key factor to consider. Nintendo just released a Joker trailer for Smash Brothers. Great, I'll check it out later. I did see some screenshots of it. I'm sure there'll be people doing their YouTube videos on that as well. So, Switch Pro. Basically, what we talked about earlier, we've been covering some things that have been going on with that. Let's see. We talked about it in a video if the Switch Pro is actually Nintendo's original design purpose for the Nintendo NX. We talked about that. We also talked about an upgrade to the USB PD power draw of the system as well. There was a job listing in Japan for that, and also we talked about evidence of a GPU feature that the Switch Pro could have as well. Pretty cool. Let me see here. Let me turn my volume down before this comes on or something. Yeah, so I'm just pulling up my links here, guys. Just a second. Yeah, asynchronous computing. We talked about that, and we talked about in the last video that I did that they will have upgrades to Wi-Fi and also support for their Bluetooth, actually, which everyone wants. Everyone wants Bluetooth, right? So that would be great. And I've seen some of your guys' comments. A lot of these job postings, a lot of people have said, hey, if they're just doing it right now, there's no way it's going to be ready in time for launch. But that's not true, because if you look at those job postings I listed for Switch Pro, they are actually only from May of this year to August of this year. So that means that they would need to be done and ready for launch by the end of this year for those job postings and their contract positions. So I don't see what else this could be for besides the Switch Pro or Switch Mini. Obviously, we're not focusing too much on the Switch Mini because we kind of figured that it would have similar processing power and and maybe even less features than the original Switch. Ocarina of Time N64 can't be beaten. Hello, Dave. Always good to see you, brother. Yeah, good to see you too. PS5 $499. Deal with it. Yeah, maybe. Depends on how great it is. Will CPU or GPU be the same on Switch Pro? I don't think so. I think it's going to be a custom chip. I don't think it's going to be the same. But obviously they're going to have backwards compatibility on there as well. All right, so everyone wants Bluetooth, but just now in the Joker reveal, Nintendo is all hands on board for the phone app still. They added more stuff to it. Great. Well, that's for the current variant of the Switch. We don't know what they're doing with the next variant of the Switch or Switch Pro. We'll have to wait and see. There could be different options and upgrades. We have to wait and see about that. All right. I really hope the handheld is in 1080p and the docked is 1440p or so, but I believe it's a long shot for that. 1440p, yeah. Well, I talked about Switch Pro at least having 4K TV support on Twitter. and the response I got, so I got a dry throat. And the response I got was, Nintendo's not going to do 4K. They'll never do that. But man, tell me if you guys understand what that means to have 4K TV support in the chat. Do you guys really know what that means, or do you just think that means Switch Pro is going to do 4K native or something? Because if you think that, let's do a little education on what 4K TV support really means. It's amazing what people go through in their minds when they see that 4K, the letter K next to that 4 really drives them crazy. 4K TV support just means that. It just means that you plug it in and your system upscales to 4K. That's all it means. It doesn't take any extra processing power at all. Doesn't mean anything like the system's going to be doing amazing, crazy graphics with it or anything. It doesn't mean that. Just like with the Xbox One X or Xbox One S, you plug it in and it upscales to 4K. Is the Xbox One S a 4K console, guys? No. Not at all. If it was, they would be advertising it as a true 4K console. It's not. All it does is upscale to 4K. I believe it has a slight processing power boost over Xbox One, the original, because it has HDR support. It has that 4K upscaling, but barely anything. It's like a slight upclock or slight uptick in power. Hardly anything noticeable at all. barely even upgrades in the frame rates at all either. So it's for the Switch Pro to have 4K upscaling, it's nothing for Nintendo to do. So yes, I do think it's going to have 4K TV support. Yeah, Joker. Yep, I know all about it, guys. So that is not a problem at all for Nintendo to do. It's not a problem at all for a handheld device to do. It's just simply a feature to make the picture a little bit cleaner, so it doesn't have to upscale twice, once through the console to the TV and then back out again through the TV to the picture itself. So it'll just make the screen look a little bit cleaner when playing games at 1080p. That's all it is. When you play the Switch now in docked mode on your TV, you're getting a little bit more of a blurry picture than what you could if it could upscale to 4K. Even though the graphics themselves are outputting whatever they are, whether it's 720p, 640p, 500p, 1080p, the graphics are the graphics internally for the console. Upscaling, though, would really help the overall nice picture quality you would get. It's just it's something that all modern technology uses that plugs into a TV now. They have 4K TV support. That's all it is. So as long as you guys understand that, when you see the words 4K TV support, you'll understand clearly now, hopefully, that that's all it means. It doesn't mean that it's actually going to be outputting anything at 4K natively, just basically upscaling through the inputs to your TV. All right. Less input lag too, exactly. That would really help. Yeah, I'm glad you guys actually know what that means in the chat. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's amazing the things I got from from Twitter the other day. And I made a list of all the improvements that I want for the Switch Pro on Twitter. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at SMetalDave64. Especially if you're a new subscriber, you want to follow me there. I think I posted a ton of info today on Twitter for whatever reason. Just had a lot to talk about. So for Switch Pro, I listed 12 improvements that I want in Switch Pro, which would be better frame rates, obviously cleaner image, higher resolution, more internal storage, local save backups, which would be nice, right? You could locally save your games instead of having to do a cloud or be forced to do cloud saving. Better battery life. No technical issues with the Joy-Cons. As you know, there's a design flaw in the stick of the Joy-Con and how it drifts. That is actually Spawnwave did a video on it, and it's actually not something that is currently being fixed as far as we know of. It's actually a physical design flaw inside the actual Joy-Con itself that Nintendo needs to basically redesign and fix. So no more of that. More ergonomic Joy-Cons, like better fitting for my hands. I have big hands, so I talked about this in my last live stream. I have to kind of reach a little bit more and do this more with the Joy-Con than what I like. I don't like that. I would rather them fit in my hand a little bit better. I think it could be a little bit more hand fitting instead of so flat. You know, it's hard to say exactly how they could do that, but I just hope that they are at least a little bit more comfortable, maybe easier to reach the stick and the upper buttons. I do get pain right here. Maybe I'm getting old. I don't know. I'm 38. But you guys might have that similar issue as well. Adding a D-pad. Man, I hope they do that somehow. Please add a D-pad to a Joy-Con, or give the option to have a D-pad, or create a Joy-Con that you could actually switch out the D-pad or the stick on, because they do have controllers that can do that now very easily. You just pop it in, pop it out. No cracking or warping consoles, no more chipping, no more bending over time. It needs to have better build quality, absolutely 100%. This new Switch Pro needs to last longer than 2 years before it starts cracking. There shouldn't be any cracking at all. No cracking. No cracking, no warping. Don't do that. Bad. Bluetooth ready, yes. All your Bluetooth devices should be able to sync up with it, or not all of them, but your Bluetooth devices that should work with a console like this, like your wireless headsets, microphones, things like that. Please also redesign the dock so it doesn't smudge your system or scratch it or whatever, or just make it so it's not so, it's just so plain and bleh. I don't like it personally. I like some of the other docks that they have from third parties. They look better. I would like a better looking dock, and also one that's better designed to fit the Switch, if that makes sense. Also, no bezels on the screen. So get rid of the borders on the screen itself. Get rid of those black borders. So you have you could actually have a better, bigger screen without those borders there, and actually keep it the same size. That's pretty cool. I say do it. And I also said number 12, 4K TV support. So I think all those are actually very doable for Nintendo, and they should do that with minimal really effort there. Even a minimal power increase as far as the performance is concerned, they could actually do all those things I listed there. And let me know what you guys think about that. Switch Pro needs a second screen, like the Wii U or the DS. No, I mean, I don't really think they're gonna do that. But hey, that's one thing I don't do anymore, is I don't dismiss anything. So anything's possible. I do like to talk about the possibilities, though. So if you're new to my channel, that is basically what I do. I don't try to force anybody to believe anything that is rumored or anything like that. I do have my own wants and desires for Nintendo, as anyone else does. I would like a console that is as powerful as possible. I don't care what the reason is or why they can't do it or whatever. I would, of course, like a console as powerful as possible. I think everybody would. The more power, the better. The more games you'll get, what have you. Will they do that? That's the question, right? So they may not. They may do that. It may be a decent upgrade to the power as far as what it can do. Like Eurogamer talked about a new 3DS upgrade, where they and when we talked about that before, that is like something at least twice as powerful, basically, is what that would be. Like 2.5 times as powerful is what that type of upgrade would be, which would make it nice for increasing the resolution, frame rates in games, getting 1080p, 60 frames per second. A lot of these games that aren't doing that right now. Cleaning up a lot of the blurry images that you see when you're playing games like Doom and Wolfenstein, the new Colossus. Things like that. That would be really beneficial to the Switch currently. But then you go into the other side of it, where what if it's more than that, and more of like an upgrade that allows you to play PlayStation 5 games? Because of course we think about this all the time. If they make it, I've seen fans tell me I don't want them to make it too powerful, because then it will leave behind the original Switch. But man, I disagree with that, because like I said, there's no such thing as too powerful. As if they make it super powerful, are you guys not going to buy it? I'll sure buy it. One of the things is that the Switch currently is, you may not realize this if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't researched it yourself, but you may not realize this, but the Switch, I'll get my calculator up here. The Xbox 360 was 240 gigaflops of compute performance for an AMD chip. We know AMD versus NVIDIA, the way they do their teraflops is different. But Xbox 360 is 240 gigaflops. The Switch is currently rated at 393 gigaflops in compute performance. So that is only 1.65% more powerful than Xbox 360. Now, if you take the whole, NVIDIA teraflops are better, or GFlops are better than AMD's, let's say it's at least twice as powerful. You guys realize that the Xbox 360 is 14 years old. So you have a current generation console that Nintendo's trying to push as a home console that is only twice as powerful or so than a 14-year-old console. So what's going to happen when PlayStation 5 comes out next year? And my estimate is that it's going to be at least 15 teraflops, 14 and 15 teraflops at least, if not more, because they're going to be doing VR, 8K resolution support. They're going to have real-time ray tracing. And like we said, the RTX 280 Ti is 13.7 teraflops in NVIDIA's teraflops range. AMD's will have to be higher to get something similar to that. So I estimate it'll be 14 at least, if not 15 at least. With real-time ray tracing at 4K 60 frames per second, you're going to need a lot of power for that. So if you do the math, Switch OG, what we have right now, 393 gigaflops. If you times that by 38, you get 14,934, which would be about 15,000, which is 15 teraflops. Which would mean if Nintendo does not do something to upgrade their current home console, which is the Nintendo Switch right now, they're going to be 38 times less powerful than a PlayStation 5, which is absolutely insane. That is much worse than what the 16.2 teraflops. Okay, well, I Googled it and it said 13.7. Let me take a look. I don't like being wrong about that kind of stuff. Maybe that was a 280. Single precision performance, 13.4 teraflops actually is what it says from this link right here. I don't know. I could be wrong. Oh, it won't let me put links in the chat. Darn it. Okay. Well, whatever. Basically, it's a lot of power. Either way. But yeah, I went to anatech.com and it says that the RTX 280 Ti is 13.4 teraflops. RTX 280 is 10.1 teraflops. 2070 is 7.5. And the GTX 1080 is 8.9 teraflops. So, but yeah, either way, I'm just giving basically ranges here that it's going to need to be really powerful to do real-time ray tracing. And as far as guys saying what the teraflop range will be in the chat, you guys have no idea. And we don't have the final word on that because it still has another year and a half or so to be released. So as far as dismissing what teraflop range it could be, let's not do that because I think it's if they're going to be doing real-time ray tracing at 4K 60 frames per second, I think 14 teraflops or higher is actually probably what they're going to have to do in order to keep the thing relevant, doing all those things at 60 frames 4K native. So I'm just saying it could be less than that, but we don't want to dismiss anything. So that's definitely not something we want to do. And also, like we talked about before, the RTX, I keep saying GTX, but RTX 280 Ti is pretty hefty, raw power. So and it barely does real-time ray tracing already on PC. So like we talked about before, whatever AMD is doing, they got some kind of custom variant of real-time ray tracing, and they're going to be releasing it next year on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Next. Let's see what the chat's saying. Og MC, yeah, what's up, dude? All right. I'm starting to wonder if Metroid Prime 4 will be on the next console. You mean like Switch Pro? They've already promised it for the current Switch, so I don't know what you're talking about there, Dr. Orr, but yeah, whatever. Let's see here. I need to make a mod. Let's see. Who wants to be a mod? I can't do that right now. Anyway, I'll have to mod myself. So just keep it nice in the chat, guys. Don't go crazy. I only had to block one guy last chat, so we're good. Let's see. AMD's Navi GPU is supposed to be shown at E3, so we should have a better idea then. Well, if Xbox shows their new console, then we might see exactly what they can do then as well. And yeah, we talked about that earlier. The price will be attractive to gamers, so my guess was $399, but we'll have to wait and see about that. So we were talking about Switch Pro's power level, or not Switch Pro, the original Switch. So basically, 38 times more powerful than the current Switch right now would be 15 teraflops. If they go for 12 teraflops, it's still going to be around 30 times more powerful than the current Nintendo Switch, which is the PlayStation 5. So, if you recall the Nintendo Wii back in 2006, the Nintendo Wii was 12 gigaflops of compute performance. Yes, it sold more than Xbox 360, but that was a really weird generation, as you guys know. It's not the same kind of thing right now. It was a lot of casual gamers, grandparents, bowling, things like that. They sold a lot of consoles, but the demographic was way different than what it is now. So 12 gigaflops versus 240. So the Xbox 360 was 20 times more powerful than the original Wii. So you're looking at something that's even higher than that with PlayStation 5 and the current Nintendo Switch model. So you're looking at least 30 times more powerful than the original Switch, which means that you're going to get absolutely no ports from PlayStation 5 on the Nintendo Wii or Nintendo Switch unless they completely remake them from scratch for the console. It's kind of hard to see that happening, right? The landscape just not made for that right now. Developers are not even porting their PlayStation 4 games to the Nintendo Switch right now, right? So the majority of them are not there. They already are starting development on PlayStation 5 with games for PlayStation 5 targeting that console. So, where does that leave Nintendo, guys? They're obviously not going to go for indie games forever and just first-party games forever. They can't. Hey, Suzanne, they can't support the console completely by themselves. They need to have third-party support. They need to have that revenue from third parties that they bring to the table. Billions of dollars. It's very well documented that AAA third-party games make the most amount of revenue out of all the companies when you look at them in the combination of things. So and they need that revenue. Nintendo definitely needs it. Microsoft would help support Nintendo. Sure. They're buddy, right? But that could change really quickly once the next generation starts, because everyone's going to go in their corners and start their new consoles and be like, no, play on our console only, because everyone wants to be number one, right? Obviously, Sony's going to do that. We know that already, but we'll see how if Microsoft changes their attitude with the next generation, with they're trying to be more competitive or not, but who knows? Thank you. Yeah, I got my blue neon light back there going. A little more ambiance. Do you think I should buy the Nintendo Switch now? I'm not going to tell you my opinion on that, honestly, because I don't want to be blamed for anything later. So you make up your own mind if you want to buy the Switch now or not. But I've seen guys try to blame me for trying to insinuate that they shouldn't buy the Switch now and wait. So I'm not going to do that. You know, you make your own mind up for what you want to believe. As a Nintendo fan or a consumer, I present you information that is accurate, really. The stuff I provided you guys in the Switch Pro is all accurate. It is factual as far as what Nintendo is doing physically and what their development is. They are doing these things. They are hiring for developers to be working on a console during May of this year and August of this year to be done. Contract positions. So this is actually factually happening. I'm not making this up. Nintendo did update the Switch firmware 8.0 to enable you to transfer your save data to a different Nintendo Switch or different console. Why did they do that? It's obvious why they're doing that. So there's new systems coming out. The Wall Street Journal is very clear that they're going to be revealing these at E3. It's not confirmed. We don't know that 100%. But, man, all the signs point to it, right? When though? Well, the rumor is they're going to reveal at E3 this year. There's no Sony there, so there's no real like competition, you would say, with Nintendo side of it. You could say Microsoft's going to compete, but we don't know anything about Microsoft because they have a game problem right now, right? Their problem is games. So I think they're kind of using Nintendo, in my opinion, to get you guys more aware of Xbox Live. They would like you to subscribe to Xbox Live. They would like you to pay them money for their games as a service for Game Pass. So giving Switch Cuphead and most likely Ori and the Blind Forest later on, and putting Xbox Live on the Switch to help them out. I think that they're trying to get you to spend money on Xbox Live to join them. So when they introduce their next Xbox console, maybe you'll be more prone to join with Xbox's new console than you would be for Sony. That's just some speculation on my part, but it makes business sense that quite possibly Microsoft is using Nintendo a little bit for their own advantage. Everybody has their own wants and desires from a partnership, right? So, hey, top finisher, Xbox Live is already on the Switch. It's just not like the app isn't there yet. So you can already use Xbox Live on the Switch, I believe, on Minecraft. So it's already there. They just haven't put the app on there yet, which I'm pretty sure they're going to. All right, let me catch my breath. Anyway, what are you guys talking about? Would a Switch Pro and supplemental computing device be able to compete with PS5? So the thing about this is that it looks pretty crazy, right? Like on paper, like, man, 38 times more powerful than the Switch OG. That's impossible. There's no way Nintendo can release a upgraded Switch that would be able to do anything even close to that. And that is probably true as far as the compute performance is concerned. So what could they possibly do in order to compete with PlayStation 5? So the thing that they could do is release an upgraded Switch, basically, that has similar basically architecture as far as what they can do as far as getting features and getting games ported down to a system like that. Downscale to 1080p, 720p, 900p, things like that. Because PlayStation 5, you got to remember, is targeting 4K, native 4K, 60 frames per second, which takes a lot of compute performance more than 1080p. And then they're targeting real-time ray tracing on top of it, which is a whole nother ball game as far as the compute performance is concerned. So what Nintendo could do is basically just make it easier to port a game from PlayStation 5 to a Switch Pro device, basically. Not having the same compute performance? No, of course not. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that out. 1/8 of the resolution of 4K is 1080p. So that is quite a lot less power needed for a console for Nintendo to use if they're targeting 1080p. So could they get a PlayStation 5 port if they used new architecture, new features, updated all their, latest technology for the modern things and, shrunk down the fabrication process? I would say yes, they could, as long as it has similar feature sets and able to downscale at a way that is less cumbersome for developers. But so the technology is out there. It's a matter of Nintendo putting it in the Switch Pro, and then you have to combine that with them having to basically allow third parties to develop games, port games just to the Switch Pro. Because obviously they wouldn't be doing that for the Switch original. So that's the whole other argument as well, that I've heard that Nintendo would never do that, right? So again, we don't dismiss everything here though. So anything's possible. You don't want to dismiss that possibility because they've done it before with the new 3DS. Okay, let's see here. What are we saying in the chat? Does this mean Microsoft will finally allow Nintendo to use Banjo-Kazooie in their games? I hope so. All right. Okay, so basically, so that's what they're up against. That's the challenge they have. Is can they do something that would allow them to get ports from the next generation? And also, it brings up the question: why would they release a updated Switch right now in 2019 when it's being surrounded by all these next generation announcements from Xbox, PlayStation 5? Why would they do that? Unless it was good enough or just good enough to get ports from those consoles. Why would they only release a console that is just barely, maybe a little bit more upgraded from the original, just to make the current Switch games run a little bit better when they're being surrounded by all these next generation consoles? So you have to weigh the possibilities here. They could be making it powerful enough to also get ports from PlayStation 5. because of that fact that next generation is right around the corner, coming out next year. So you got to weigh all the possibilities. We can't dismiss any one of the possibilities that could happen. And that's exactly what I've tried to do in this go around for hardware for Nintendo. I'm not going and saying that everything is going to be one way or the other, or that it has to be this or has to be that. I'm definitely not going that way in this go around. So it could be any way Nintendo wants it to be. They can try to pull it off. Okay, let's be real though. Switch OG was never going to get PS5 or even late gen PS4 ports anyway. Yeah, well, that's the whole point, right? So that's what Nintendo's been up against. The power differential is so great that developers simply can't really target their games for the current Switch, without significant more resources and money put into development for those games, right? So they have to weigh the cost of development versus how much they're going to sell on the Switch. So where does that leave them? It leaves them basically with waiting possibly for another console from Nintendo. Really, that's why you see a lot of games skipping the Switch, because they're not going to see the amount of sales they need to make up the money for a lot of these games. And I'm not saying that doesn't apply to every game. Like I've seen Samurai Showdown, it's still going to get some PlayStation 4 ports. Just a lot, just hardly, not many of the new ones, really. Certain games, the fighting games, for example, stuff that doesn't have a big open world, certain racing games probably as well, even though we're not seeing too many of those either, will get ports to the current Switch. As long as it's able to run on the current Switch, they're going to port it, right? Without it being way too much work. Let's get back to a question here in the chat. Ocarina of Time N64. Dave, let's say the Switch Pro is a little bit more powerful than the base PS4, exclamation point. Do you think we'll be able to get any PS5 third-party game if downgraded? So, yeah, I do think so. But again, it's not all about the power as far as it matching teraflops of PlayStation 4. It's more, yes, it should do that as far as power is concerned, but it also needs to have an upgraded feature set that can actually be compatible with PlayStation 5. It can't just have a feature set that's compatible with just PlayStation 4. It needs to go beyond that as far as feature set is concerned. So it can't just be raw power. It needs to have features that can run those games at a downscaled resolution. You see? So it's not just about the power. All right. Switch needs more ports, at least PS4 graphics. Yeah, so I mean, I saw someone say this on Twitter, is that Nintendo's always the same, always doing the same thing. Whenever the next generation comes out, they're always one generation behind. So they did that with Wii U, and basically the Wii was a weird console because it was a GameCube, so they didn't actually upgrade really the Wii from the GameCube. The GameCube was like the same console with the Wii for about till 2012. So you got 2001 to 2012, Nintendo didn't do anything to upgrade their home console, really. Increased the clock speeds. I think added some cores, I believe. Or no, I think they just upgraded the clock speed of the Wii, added some more RAM, and that was it. Called it a day. The Wii U was the first console they upgraded, greater than that, but it was just barely past the Xbox 360. So they were a generation behind when the PlayStation 4 came out completely. Henceforth, no ports. Then you got the Switch, which is more powerful than the Wii U, but not by much. Henceforth, same situation. Hardly no ports from PlayStation 4. Some, because they got some updated APIs and they got some things that can run on the Switch. They can get away with it, but for the most part, it's not getting ports from PlayStation 4, at least the most of them, which is unfortunate. Let me go back up here with the questions. But as many have said, Switch does not need every third-party game, so why are we wanting a Pro in the first place if we agreed that on past topics that we don't need all games? It depends on what Nintendo wants. Nintendo wants money, right? So they're going to want to have most third-party ports. I would like to have all the games on my Nintendo console. I'm not going to buy every game, but your wants and needs are different than my wants and needs. So other people might want to have certain games that are not available on the current Nintendo system. They may not be games that you want, but they may not be games that they want. Maybe someone else wants Madden. There hasn't been a Madden game on Nintendo consoles since Madden 13 since 2012, the launch game for the Wii U. I don't want that game. I don't care about Madden, but there's millions of players that do, and who would buy that on a Nintendo console. Zelda Breath of the Wild OOT. Why does Nintendo have this port issue and not Sony? I can never imagine not having nearly the same third party across PS5 and Xbox. People would freak out. Exactly. Good question. Well, the question is not really hard to answer. The answer to that question is simply their console. The third parties don't want to port their games to a console. That takes extra work to do. And it's not really necessarily a lazy thing either. It's more about them having resources only to spend on what they're targeting only. So they don't want to actually develop an entire game exclusively for the Nintendo Switch if it's not going to make the money in return. That's basically the issue that is going on with third parties, is that some of them are willing to bite the bullet and take a chance to port to Nintendo, hoping it'll sell. But then you have a price issue with the developers who are making the game. It costs a lot of money, takes time to port, and they're weighing the possibilities of what they're going to get back in return for sales of that game. And I talked about this in the last live stream. If it takes 2 years to port a game to the Switch from PS4, and you got to pay those developers yearly salaries that are sometimes up to $100,000 a year. It could be $60,000 a year, $70,000, what have you. If you got a team of 50 guys porting that game over for 2 years, millions of dollars of money spent in development. And they already know ahead of time that the Switch is going to have the worst looking game of that port. So are they going to make their money back? They're probably calculating those risks and saying, you know what, we're just going to not make the game for the Switch. Good luck, basically, is what they're saying. So it's more of like Okay, what's going on here? So it's more of like the that's the case here with Nintendo and developers. Okay, so let's see what else here. What we got here? Yeah, so the thing with fixing that issue is that they need to have just an easier way for developers to port their games. And some of that has to do with raw processing power, but a lot of it has to do with having the best, not the best, but having the available tools to develop for developers to use, having the latest software for developers to use, having a similar architecture to the other next generation consoles for them to use, that they could actually just move over their game to a Nintendo console without having to remake it from scratch, basically, and add different assets and really try their best to change how the game is just in order to get it to run on the Switch, which is a lot of effort for a developer to use. So if they actually have that type of upgrade, they could actually get away with having a console that could be 1.5 teraflops, 2 teraflops, things like that, and not actually have to have a console that is 15, 16, teraflops or 10 teraflops, 8 teraflops, what have you. They could get away with something less powerful as long as it's a certain range of power at 1080p, because 1080p doesn't require that much. As we talked about before, it requires a lot less processing grunt to get running. Most gamers have 1080p TVs, 4K TVs, and if you got a console that is 1080p focused that upscales to 4K, it can look quite nice. I tried my PC at 1080p on my 4K TV. It looks great. If you look a little close, it's a little bit less defined, a little bit more blurry, 1080p to 4K, but overall, I think everyone would take a Switch Pro or Switch, upgraded Switch, Super Switch, whatever, that could get PlayStation 5 ports at 900p, 1080p, downscaled with minimal performance loss. I think everyone would take that as long as it gives it a extra life, or longer life on the market. Because the current Switch, hey man, Nintendo is saying to everybody they want you to upgrade to a new console soon. They said it basically in their firmware update. They said it last year in a YouTube video how to trade in and sell your Nintendo Switch. So, man, it's really obvious they're going to do something here that's going to upgrade it. Okay. The whole thing with the Switch Mini is that it's going to not be as, it's probably going to be similar in performance to the current Nintendo Switch, but focused on the portable aspect only. I'm going to do a video eventually too, guys, highlighting all the improvements that Nintendo appears to be working on publicly with public information. I think there's at least 6 or 7 different things they're currently working on, because I covered some things that they started hiring for last year. If you go to my YouTube channel on my Switch Pro videos, I talked about quite a few things in 2018 that they were working on. A couple of you guys brought that up in the chat, is that about the Ethernet support. They were hiring somebody that had experience with Ethernet. They also talked about hiring somebody with experience with 3D audio. Remember, that's also something in PlayStation 5 that was talked about today. Mark Cerny talked about, I'm looking at the Wired article right here. The AMD chip also includes a custom unit for 3D audio that Cerny thinks will redefine what sound can do in a video game. Nintendo is hiring, this is confirmed, I have it in a video I can show you guys later, but last year I talked about how Nintendo's actually hiring for somebody to work on 3D audio for a new Nintendo system. This was last year. So I'm posing the question to you guys. I'm not saying for 100% they're going to have all these new features in the new Switch, but it looks like from what their public information is that they will. So why would they do all these little upgrades if they're not going to actually do the upgrade all as well for the actual processing power of the system? Why would they only upgrade all these other little things, and not the actual processing power? It's interesting to think about, because 3D audio, if they're going to upgrade to 3D audio for the Switch Pro, that sounds like a home theater experience, right? So I'm just saying that it has a very interesting chance of having something that might be surprising. The Wall Street Journal even said that maybe this new Switch Pro will surprise people, because that's what they're going for. They said that the designs of these new Switch systems will surprise people. And they said, quote, basically word for word, that the upgrade that the Switch Pro is getting is not the same as just a PlayStation 4 Pro from PlayStation 4. So they said that. If you see my video I did, what was it? A new custom Nintendo Switch Pro SoC will bring surprises. That's exactly what the Wall Street Journal said. Not in those words, but that's what they'll have to do, is have a new custom SoC. And they said that this new upgraded Switch will bring unexpected surprises, basically, is what they were saying. What that is, we don't know, you see? So could it be more powerful than what we think? Yes. Could it be a more of an incremental upgrade? Yes. Anything is possible. So we're not dismissing either possibility. Do you think the Switch Pro, this is Melfice? Do you think the Switch Pro is the real reason why Metroid Prime 4 got delayed? It's quite possible. It's quite possible that is true, because maybe they are pushing something that they want to test out, or maybe they're pushing graphics in a way that is just beyond the realm of what the current Switch is doing. Again, this current Switch was not made for Nintendo. Remember, it wasn't made for Nintendo. It was made for NVIDIA, first and foremost for their NVIDIA Shield TV. It wasn't made for Nintendo. Nintendo bought the chip and is using it in the current Switch. But as far as how Nintendo wants to develop their games, NVIDIA, they had no say in that. Nintendo didn't have any say in what NVIDIA gave them as a chip. So they may be seeing Metroid Prime 4 as something so epically big that maybe they want to start over from scratch from what they were doing and create something more robust, because maybe they actually do care about the fans. I hope they do. I hope they do care about us and give us something that is truly epic and grand, because Metroid Prime does deserve that, don't you think, guys? I'm a huge Metroid Prime fan, so I would want the game to look as best as possible, so I'll definitely buy the game on Switch Pro. All right. I don't think we'll see any exclusives for the Pro. Nintendo, I see this all the time. Nintendo doesn't have a history of that. What do you mean? They just did that with the new 3DS. Adam Young, tell me in the chat why they wouldn't do that. You said Nintendo doesn't have a history of that, of making exclusives for their consoles. They just did what they have, like 50 exclusives for the new 3DS. They have 500 exclusives for the DSi, many exclusives for the for the Game Boy Color. So that is factually wrong. They do it all the time. So I see people saying that they would never do that, but they do it all the time, guys. The chances of them actually having exclusive games for the Switch Pro is actually greater than them not having exclusive games for the Switch Pro, because they've just done that. But I'm not saying it's not possible or impossible that they will or won't, but it looks like it's very likely that they will, because of what they've been doing. All right. Zachary Kurtz, the T210 in the Switch is different from the one in the Shield TV. Okay. All right. I need to pre-read this before I say them out loud, basically. No need for dual screen. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, so Solo Nippon. again, if I'm pronouncing your guys' names wrong, I apologize. But this is live. This pro title name. I mean, why would Nintendo use a competitor's title for their next system? I mean, we all know Nintendo likes to use names that are way different than the rest of the two. Yeah. Switch Pro is just a name that we're calling. It's just a title we're calling it because we don't know what they're going to call it. I would like to call it Super Switch, right? That would be one way they could communicate the way the upgrade for the system. If it's a big enough upgrade, they could call it the Super Switch, and I think everybody would be fine with that. Calling it New Switch is terrible. Switch Pro, I like that. I like Switch Pro, but calling it the same as the PlayStation 4 Pro, obviously they're probably not going to do that. Switch XL, Switch X, Ultra Switch. Ultra. Switch Ultra. By the ultimate power of the Switch. They could do something like that. Who knows? I like those kind of names. Switch 64. That would be cool. But Super Switch fits the best for me. I like that. I like Super. Super Nintendo is my favorite Nintendo console of all time. Super really says exactly what the Super Nintendo was, too. It was a better Nintendo. So if that is the case, they call it Super Switch, it would communicate exactly what the Super Switch is, a better Switch. And it would be really easy to understand. And that would work, in my opinion. What names would you guys give the Switch Pro? Would you call it Switch Pro? What would you call it? Some people like Switch Pro. And some people like other things. So we'll see. Switch Advanced. Switch Advanced, yeah. Game Boy Advance, yeah. That could happen. Super Switch undermines the current one. Yeah. Anything new, guys, is going to undermine the current one. The new 3DS undermines the original 3DS. So, no matter what they release that's new and better, it's going to undermine it no matter what. Power Switch. Let's turn on the Power Switch. It's good. Good one. Switch NG, next generation. Okay, Ultra Switch. Now you're playing with power. Ultra power. Yes. Finish him. Switch MA17 edition. Hey, we got a guy from 1994 in the chat. Or 93, right? That's when that rating was put on the Sega Genesis version of Mortal Kombat. Good job. Switchblade, yeah. Switch minus and Switch plus. That's fun. Switch minus. That's good. Switch minus. Switch minus the home aspect. Switch plus the higher resolution aspect. Oh, man. Now we're having some fun. I like Switchblade. That's good. Switch U. That's terrible, but funny. Hyper Switch. Now we're getting good. Super Hyper Switch Championship Edition Turbo Ultra. All right. Switch Omega. Good. This is good. You guys are good with these names. All right. Will Sony win next generation again? Probably. Super Metal Switch 64. I'll take that. Switch on. And as far as I don't personally think the Switch Pro will be a home console. I think it'll still have that portability aspect. It's just that the reasoning for that, I think, is because once you get that portable aspect, I'm sure you guys can agree, if taking it away, that would kind of be like almost like a downgrade for what the Switch is, taking the portability aspect away from it. So I think they'll keep that. Not saying it's impossible they won't have a dedicated console in the future, but I think they'll keep it for now at least, right? Oh, good one, Adam Young. Mini will be called the Can't Switch. That's good. The Nintendo Switch, but better edition. Oh, man, I love it. You guys are great. Great stuff. Okay, Switch animatic? Okay. Yep. Great names, guys. If you guys are on Twitter, you should tweet at me these names too. That's fun. We should save these names. The true Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Shift. Switch up. All right. So yeah. Sony will probably... Well, the reason why I think Sony will probably win again is because they're basically on top of it. They're kind of a step ahead right now, right? So they have the upper hand. So as long as they don't screw up PlayStation 5 as far as making it way too expensive, like $600 like PlayStation 3, they're in the driver's seat position to win again in next generation. Not that Nintendo can't be successful. They're doing very good. They can continue to sell as many Switch variants as possible and make a ton of money. I think someone brought it out recently that, what was it, Obi-Wan Plays? Which I do like Obi-Wan Plays, by the way, if you're watching Obi-Wan. I've been watching him since 2015, I think. I know he gets flack for his thumbnails, but I like his thumbnails because he's very he's all about that thumbnail. So he's all about that. I have no problem with that at all. For him, for other guys who do the whole mouth open thing on purpose, Obi-Wan was the guy who made that super fun. Yeah, if you like this video, please hit the like button, guys. We might as well hit the like button if you're here. So anyway, what was I saying? PlayStation 5, yeah. So Sony's in the driver's seat, and what Sony just did today was that they have just decided for the industry, basically, what is going to happen for next gen a year and a half ahead of time, since they are the market leader. So they did something interesting, and they told everybody today that here's what we're doing, and here's where we're going, and deal with it. So they gave Nintendo and Microsoft an ultimatum today, basically that, hey, this is what we're doing with next gen. It's not coming out until 2020, so you guys better figure something out, or you're going to be behind. Interesting, isn't it? Sony's pretty confident in what they're doing, and they're not letting off the gas pedal, really. So really, that is where the industry is going. Sony is leading it right now, and developers are going to follow them because they've always followed Sony. Ever since the PlayStation 1 was released, Sony has gotten all third-party support. They have never had a console without third-party support, except for their handhelds, of course. But Sony will have all the AAA third-party support on PlayStation 5, and they'll have it ahead of time. They'll have it right now. So you can guarantee Square Enix, Capcom, EA, Activision, Ubisoft, Platinum Games even, all those companies are making games for PlayStation 5 right now. I guarantee it. They all want to be there on launch day. System comes out in a year or so. So they're going to have the hardware already. They're going to have their games already. So they're going to have their launch games ready to go. And while it's true that Sony might be overconfident, I don't really think they're showing it way too much right now, because they're still being nice to their fans, even though they've gotten some flack with their crossplay thing. But that's really not that big of a deal overall for them. As long as they continue to be market leader, they'll continue to be nice enough, allow some crossplay, because the fans are asking for certain games to have crossplay. But I think they're gonna continue to be competitive, and they even said their price will be competitive too. So it's interesting. We'll have to wait and see what they do. But that's the thing, though. Sony has let the industry know what's going on with next gen. So we have concrete information. It's not a rumor. It is confirmed by Sony themselves that they will be releasing a next generation console that has ray tracing, an SSD drive which will change development for third parties as well. So Nintendo has to think about that too. Are they going to upgrade their storage, how fast the storage is on the Switch Pro because of that? They have times, you see, to fix those things now that Sony has let them know. Maybe Sony wants Nintendo to be competitive. Maybe Sony wants Microsoft to be competitive, because if for some reason Sony has a monopoly on the industry, they might have to break up PlayStation for some reason, which obviously that's probably not going to happen. But you want competition in this industry, because the more competition someone has, the more effort they put in their products for you to buy, because they want you to buy their products. If these companies get lazy and keep releasing these ho-hum products, same old thing all the time, and not changing anything, not improving anything, it becomes boring. And then you have people who are not really interested in buying those products. Taylor, thanks for the $1 super chat. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, you guys can ask me. You don't have to super chat. I'm not here to ask for money or anything like that. It's strictly a live stream to discuss all these things going on in the industry. I don't live stream begging for money. I'll never do that. All right, so let's see what you guys are talking about. Gaming is getting serious. Yes, it is. So I think Spawnway have talked about this too. Is that SSD drive is interesting. That can actually completely change development for a AAA third party. And if Nintendo and Microsoft don't have a similar SSD drive as far as the speed is concerned, they may also not get ports just from that aspect of it too. Sony's really being interesting here with their features. You can pretty much guarantee Xbox is going to copy that. Straight up, 100%. They're going to copy whatever Sony's doing. They're going to make sure the specs are the same features, same storage drive most likely, or similar to it, so it can have all the same ports, because they know that their money is all on that AAA third party. That's what Microsoft does. Their first party ain't there. So if even that's gonna prevent Nintendo from getting ports from third party, they're gonna have to upgrade that for their next Switch as well. So man, it's amazing. It's amazing how fast things can change. Let me go back up and see if I missed any questions, because I don't want to just answer certain people's questions only. It's not fair. Will PS5 be able to play PS3 games at day one? There is an emulation patent that Sony has that will allow for classic games to be played. So I do think they will support all their previous consoles. But that is a feature of the console, right? So they did say in that article, they're just talking about specs. They did say it will be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4. That is like the immediate answer. But I do think they'll be able to play all the original games as well in backwards compatibility, because they have that patent that they just put out there last month. They updated it, actually. I do think they're doing that. And now they had basically announced PlayStation 5. So absolutely, I think you'll be able to play PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4 on PlayStation 5. Hey, Dave, do you think the new Switch can overcome the PS5 like we did the PS3? I don't think so, because the Switch is already out, and the Wii and PS3 came out at the same time, and it was drastically different. You had a bad economy at the time. $250 was great. A lot of people went to that. $599 was bad. Everyone agreed with that. So I don't think it'll be the same situation where a Switch can overcome a power disparity of over 30 times less powerful. You just can't sell a console on indie games and just first party games like that. You're going to have a more robust lineup going forward. That's just the way Nintendo always has had their consoles, really. The really successful ones. Even the Wii had some key AAA third party support as well, even though they made it exclusively for their console eventually. You and Rich Review Tech USA should do another collaboration. Yeah, I think we will be in the future. He has asked me. I told him to wait a little bit, so we might be doing it in the not too distant future. I have never, by the way, asked any. You can ask any of the YouTubers out there who have hundreds of thousands of subs. I have never asked them to be on their channel. They've always asked me. Yep, 30 times stronger. We did the math earlier. I don't know if you were here for that. At least 30 times more powerful than the original Switch. The PlayStation 5 will be. More powerful the PlayStation 5 will be. Do or do not. Cerny is paid by Sony. Don't trust him about Sony. What? Wow. Okay. That is hilarious. That's a good one. The funny thing about what Mark Cerny said about PlayStation 4 Pro is that it was actually a Polaris-based GPU based with future Vega architecture. In an interview with Eurogamer of all people, the site that leaked their own console, they brought out that they were using Vega architecture back then, and PS4 Pro was starting development in 2015. Right around the same time they started development on PS5. So obviously Navi's not out yet, but Navi's after Vega. So PlayStation, Sony has had access to Navi for probably a couple years already. At least the early development, of Navi, they were probably right there with it, with AMD. So there was a lot of people who said there's no way they could get a future graphics card that's not out yet. They would have to get something that's already been released, because that's what they did with PlayStation 4. But they just proved that with PlayStation 4 Pro, that they actually got future tech from AMD before it was released. What Mark Cerny said today was all confirmed by Sony themselves. PlayStation themselves, their Twitter page tweeted out what that article said about Mark Cerny with the PlayStation 5. All confirmed, 100% fact. All right. Switch Pro HDR 1080p 60 frames per second. Again, it's very possible. HDR is a feature. 4K TV support is a feature. Doesn't take much processing power at all to add that to a console like the Switch. So yeah, I think that's all possible. People have to get out of your minds that processing power does not equal some of these features. Some of these features simply can be added without hardly any additional processing power to the console, you see? And it could look a lot better just from that. Yeah, that's what a lot of people are wondering about this. Jeffrey Burns, I just wonder if Sony will do the $600 mess. Yeah, that's what people are worried about, or not worried about. They're thinking they will. Maybe some Sony haters and PlayStation haters are hoping they will overprice the console so the others can, be more competitive or whatever. But I don't think they'll do that personally, because of what they just said today. They'll have a price that is agreeable to gamers. Everyone knows that price, $600, is a meme that everyone uses. So no, I don't think it's going to be $600. I don't think it's going to be $500 either. I think it'll be $449 or $300 or $400. I think they'll maybe do a couple SKUs around that range. Now, SOE, your question, but a Switch with a 1080p screen is not very realistic, is it? I mean, that would drain the battery. they have cell phones that have 4K or 2K screens that have way longer battery than the Switch. So a 1080p screen should be very possible as long as they have like a good fabrication size and also the better battery also in the system. A 1080p screen is not an issue, I don't think. It's whether it's the rendering processing power internally of the console. It doesn't matter what the screen resolution is of the actual LCD itself. What matters is the processing power that's using to push the games on that screen. So yeah, that's very possible to have a 1080p screen and not really have a problem with that. What are your thoughts on ray tracing, Red Sea Gaming Life? Is it a marketing tool and just the new hot tech word now? Yes and no. It is the hot new tech word. It is a marketing tool, but it is also actually a viable, graphically enhanced visual feature that looks really good. Go check out Quake 2 running on a GTX or RTX 2080 Ti with real-time ray tracing. You'll see the difference is night and day. Literally, it looks absolutely amazing, and that is an old game from 1998. Real-time ray tracing is the real deal. As long as they have the processing power to run it, which they're saying they will. So we'll see how it looks. But from what I've seen, ray tracing is absolutely beautiful. And it is going to be the next, it's shaping up to be the next bump in visual leap that people want from a next generation console. So PlayStation 4 introduced physically based rendering. If you played Uncharted 4, have you guys played Uncharted 4? There's a level with a lot of mud in it. Also, Shadow of the Tomb Raider uses a lot of mud in that game, and it uses physically based rendering to make the mud actually stick on the character and tracks that stay in the ground from the mud from your Jeep in Uncharted 4 that react real. They react realistically to your movements, to objects' movements. They splatter. They have real footprints that stay there and in the actual game. That's physically based rendering right there. That was not possible. It may have been possible in some ways on Xbox 360, but it took too much processing power. They didn't use it on those consoles. But on PS4, they introduced that. So they introduced that. They introduced higher fidelity graphics, better textures, better frame rates, more polygons, of course. But physically based rendering was the graphical effect that really showed the difference between previous generation and current generation. Real-time ray tracing is the next generation effect that's going to show the difference between last generation and the next one. A lot of people assumed it was just going to be 4K 60 frames per second, but the visual difference, like I said, go play Quake 2 or go check out Quake 2 on YouTube with real-time ray tracing enabled. The difference is very apparent once you see it in action. Full screen real-time ray tracing looks absolutely amazing. All right. There was a question here I didn't want to miss. Taylor Bowen. I have a question about your Wi-Fi video. I don't understand how I don't understand how the Switch, I think you're trying to say Switch Pro, can come out this year, let alone be playable with Ethernet. Nintendo's still behind her. Did you see the job posting I left in the description, Taylor? They're only working on it for like 5 months. From May, June, July, August, 4 months. Only for 2019, from May to August. So they have a deadline to meet, and these are contract positions, and they're working on software for hardware that's already been made. So yeah, this looks like it's for Switch Pro. I'm just saying. Okay. Do you think they will revive some of their neglected franchises? Yeah, I hope so. Golden Sun, I hope. F-Zero, gosh, I hope. I really want F-Zero badly. Man, a real F-Zero game, can you imagine that? It's been 16 years. 16. 16, if you're watching in Spanish, which you're not. 16 años. Long time. I really want a new F-Zero game. Release month for new Switch. I'm gonna go with October. That might be a good call. Or September even. There's some debate on whether they will release Switch Pro and Switch Mini at the same time. Go with Switch Mini in November if they're releasing Pokemon on time, if it's not delayed. They might release it with Pokemon. Switch Pro might come out before the next Call of Duty comes out. So if they want that game to be on the Switch Pro, if they have plans to have some certain extremely high-profile AAA third-party games on Switch Pro only, which would be the new Call of Duty, the new Jedi game, and what else? Any other AAA game that's really big that they really want, that Nintendo really wants. I guarantee you they'll go ahead and do it for the Switch Pro if they have to, because if Nintendo really wants something, they'll do it. Let's just put it that way. If a developer tells them, hey, we'll give you Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 on the Switch Pro, we just don't have the budget to actually port it to the original Switch. Take it or leave it, Nintendo. Do you think Nintendo's going to say no? I don't think so. It's all about money to them. There's certain things that maybe they do want to have that they'll go ahead and bite the bullet that don't go to the original Switch. There is that distinct possibility. You want to see Battlefield 4 on the Switch Pro? That came out in 2013. Are you sure you want Battlefield 4? Assassin's Creed Vikings. All right. Do you think the Switch Pro will have a power boosting dock like the one rumored for the original Switch? I think it will eventually. I don't think it will at launch, but I think they will. That's another thing I talked about in a previous video in 2018. They're hiring developers with experience with PCIe Express experience. Crazy enough, Mark Cerny talked about PCIe 4.0 in the video for PlayStation, in the news article for PlayStation 5. If I could find what he said here exactly. Something about I think the SSD drive or something like that. But anyway, if you read the article, he talked about that too. Interesting, huh? But Nintendo was hiring somebody with experience with Ethernet adapters, with experience with custom SoCs, semi-custom chips, embedded chips, modern SoCs. They even were hiring people for that. This is all proved in my videos. I have evidence to prove it and back it up. It's not a rumor. They also were hiring for people for, like I said, PCIe support. Also, people with experience with 3D audio. Man, it's amazing. It's amazing how much evidence there is of this console publicly by Nintendo themselves. Not even a rumor that they are working on this console since for a while. Been hiring for it. It's amazing. If you guys have been following my videos for the past year, you'll know that 100% true. All there for you to see. Like I said, I'll do a video going over all these things. I even forgot about some of that stuff. I forgot about the PCI Express hiring they did. Pretty interesting. Release Portal on Switch. Sure, why not? Suzanne, you want Final Fantasy 15 on the Switch? Are you sure about that? Haven't you played that enough by now? Let's go back up here and see what other questions you have. Zachary, I don't know much about this stuff, but one of the few things I can confirm is that it's using LPDDR4X RAM. You can confirm that, huh? Well, I actually agree with you on that. I think it will use that. Yeah, that's a good call. Switch Pro LPDDR4X. It's a lot faster, and it's used in mobile devices already. I think the what is it? The new Samsung Galaxies, they use 12 gigabytes of LPDDR4X RAM. There was a guy in my last live stream, I'd never forget his name, Super Male Vitality Overdose. He said that the Switch Pro would have 12 gigabytes of LPDDR4X RAM. So if you're watching out there, guy, I'll give you credit if that's true. It's all fun. It's all fun to speculate on the new Switch hardware. Like I said, that's the thing that some people out there are making a mistake on, is that they're dismissing certain things about what could be possible for this new Switch when you shouldn't do that. I made that mistake in 2016 by dismissing one thing and going for another thing completely. You can't do that with Nintendo. They will continue to do things unexpected. I expected them to do a home console because that's what they did before, and have a separate handheld device. They instead purchased a stock chip and released the Switch. You see what I mean? That was not expected at all. Nobody expected that. So there's been discussion that they've been working on this Switch Pro, this upgraded Nintendo Switch, ever since that time, since it was the NX, and they actually haven't even released it yet. So there is some discussion about that too. Whether or not that's true or not remains to be seen, but that is something very interesting. I talked about that in my video about, could the Switch Pro be Nintendo's longest secret? Because the Tegra X1 processor is not something Nintendo designed for their console. It's something NVIDIA designed for their own system. So what has Nintendo been working on for all these years, guys? Just new 3DS stuff? Not a chance. What has Nintendo been working on? Customized for their own idea of what they could do for a fully hybrid system. What have they been working on? Are we going to find that out at E3? Or are we going to find that out later? We're going to have to wait and see. It's up to you to decide which one to believe, though. And someone asked me about Labo earlier. No, I have no interest in playing Labo or buying Labo or trying Labo VR. Thoughts on ray tracing? I talked about that already before. If you're late to the stream, go ahead and I talked about it for a lot of times. I'm not going to repeat it. Basically, I think it's the next generation, the feature that's going to separate itself from the previous gen. It will give you that visual thing you see immediately with your eyes that tells you that's next gen. That's what real-time ray tracing is going to do. Otherwise, it's going to be just 4K 60 FPS. And that's not really next gen. That's just basically a performance boost, and that's it. Oh, I see. Pimpamageddon, Labo, what they've been working on. You're telling me they spent a couple $1 billion in R&D in Labo? I'm sure you're joking, but yeah, no. Two versions of new hybrid like 3DS and 2DS, one powerful, one less so. Sure. So yeah, if you're subscribed to my channel, that's what I'm going for here. I'm going for covering all the possibilities for this new system. Good. I'm glad you're joking, because yeah, with Labo, I'm not on board, not on cardboard with it. Not on board. Cardboard is expensive. Yeah, it sure is, Suzanne. Really expensive. Ugh. Yeah. Spend all their money on Labo. Either that or they gave it to Amazon to package for their Switch consoles. Who knows? Yeah, as far as F-Zero is concerned, I'm talking about home console games. I know that you don't want to discount the handheld ones, but man, I'm talking about a new, fully dedicated home console, bleeding your eyes out, super fast arcade racing game that you play on your TV. That's what I want. So private sector, thanks for subscribing. So I don't live stream too much, guys. So it's not like I have all these notifications that pop up when you subscribe. I don't have how much money I'm making in the stream popping up on the screen either for you guys. It's not relevant to me to do that. So, I mean, at least whatever people want to do with their live streams, it's fine. I'm not here to judge anybody at all. Just for me, that's not what I do. I'm just here to talk to you guys and have a good time. Hello from Brazil. Yeah. Enrico Moreno, I really like your channel. Congratulations, man. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Deadlock 7. How about the Fusion idea? Do you think the Pro could be part of that plan? Like one at home and one portable with shared saves? That's what the idea was for the NX, if you recall. They may have done that. They may have had that plan originally too. You never know. There was that home console actually was rumored, so that they were working on for the NX that they canceled. That was actually a rumor. So they may have been working on a home console, and a dedicated portable and a hybrid device and multiple devices. Maybe, and they had to cancel at least one of them because their dedicated home consoles weren't working for them, weren't selling. And just maybe they held back the custom chip they were working on for the fully realized version of the Switch and released the current Switch as it was by purchasing a stock chip from NVIDIA, and made bank on that really quickly by releasing all these games rapidly. And here we are 2 years later. We might be seeing the fully realized version of that idea by Nintendo and going all out on it because they know that the idea works and it sells like game busters, and now they're going to put their full effort into this new version of the Switch. That is one speculation. Sounds good though. Metroid Prime, Metroid Trilogy bundle with the Switch Pro. Yeah, I'd buy it. That would probably be more expensive though. Well, SOE, it's not really a dream really, because they have to be working on something, right? So Nintendo is factually working on a product, multiple products behind the scenes. They factually are. This is not really a rumor necessarily. They said so themselves in the job description. So unless they're just purchasing another chip from NVIDIA that's already pre-made for them, then Nintendo is making their own console from scratch that's custom made. So I don't think it's a dream that Nintendo has been working on something for the past 5 years behind the scenes, and they're getting ready to reveal it. That's probably very likely, to be honest with you, because they haven't done that. They haven't shown anything that they've made custom yet. All they've done is make 3DS consoles and continue to revise them. They released a new 3DS in 2015 with an upgraded ARM quad-core processor, nearly doubled the video RAM, tripled the clock speed of the CPU, and that was it. So you're telling me that's all they made since 2011? We're in 2019 now. So you mean to tell me all Nintendo has made, put all their heart and soul in with R&D with their consoles, is just the new 3DS? Not a chance. It's been 8 years since the 3DS was introduced, so there's no way they've only just made the new 3DS. Because the Switch, they did not make that chip. So what have they been working on? That's the question, right? Interesting. Very interesting. And that's why we like to discuss these things, because it's fun. And that's why we like to do these videos like what we've been doing, because it's great. It's cool. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about doing videos that interest me. That's why I don't do videos basically on certain things that everyone does. I've talked about this before. I'm not going to do a Smash Brothers video on Joker. I'm not going to do a Nintendo Direct video. I love looking into new hardware. I absolutely love it. It's really a lot of fun. I love technology talk. So anything to do with specs, technology, new technology, uncovering things, finding things people have missed, sharing that with others, getting developers on here and discussing it with live even or in interviews. Love that stuff, guys. So fun. Yeah. Taylor Bowen. That hasn't been happened yet. So we're still waiting on that yet. So yeah. So it's cool. Lots of cool things to look forward to. The thing is about the speculation, it's not just what I try to do, guys, is I'm not just trying to speculate for speculation's sake because I'm a dreamer, like, hey, let's speculate that Nintendo is going to release a PlayStation 5 equivalent with 15 teraflops or 20 teraflops and has real-time ray tracing, 8K resolution. That's stupid. So, like, at least I try to be realistic with speculation by pointing to actual real evidence in my videos. That's what I'm trying to do for you guys. I'm trying to provide for you actual real evidence you can go on that you can actually base something to speculate on. So it's not just some cockamamie, dream console. It's actually something real that they're working on. You can see it in my videos. My last 5 uploads have all been Switch Pro because there's all evidence there that points to them making a new console. And there's evidence, rumors that the console's coming out this year. So I hope you guys have been enjoying it because it's fun. Fun for me. So I've been talking here. What else are we talking about? If I understand correctly, Nintendo always makes console and handheld in secret as a backup plan if their main console fails and upgrade for the success console. That's the cool thing about Switch Pro that they have an opportunity with. Nintendo has made bank, right? They're making a lot of money on the current Switch. You guys will agree with that. Selling good, selling really well. It's winning MPDs. They're probably at 33 million shipped or whatever right now. Why would they release an enhanced version of the Switch if it's selling well already? Why bother? Just keep selling. I mean, they didn't do that with the Wii. They continue selling the Wii as is for its full lifespan. They never released an upgrade, obviously. I mean, it's a home console. They don't do that usually for their home consoles. But it's interesting, though, that 2 years in, we're getting an upgraded Switch that is also a home console. And just coincidentally, is that a word? Just by coincidence, competition is releasing next generation consoles and announcing them right around this time. And we're seeing evidence of them putting features in this console that they're making publicly in their job descriptions that actually are similar to what PlayStation 5 has been confirmed to be using. 3D audio and even PCI Express stuff that they're doing. Nintendo's hiring for the same stuff. Weird. Or maybe not so weird. And maybe they're upgrading to something that's actually pretty cool. I'll have to wait and see. Coincidentally, yeah. The beauty of live, you make mistakes. Some more than others. Watch out. Yeah, so like we were saying, they're upgrading the console. I mean, come on. Let's use some common sense. They're upgrading the console because they want to have future support from third parties. I think that's as simple as that. As much as people don't want to accept that that's probably what's happening because of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Next coming, because that means they may not get the same games on the original Switch. Let's just be real. That's probably what they're doing, guys. So, hey, thanks, Dean. Mega, if I can say your name. You gave me a super chat, too. Sorry about that. Megas Dan. Why can't you guys have better names to pronounce? I don't like that. I predict an E3 announcement on launch games day one. Yeah, sorry for not reading your super chat earlier. I go on and on sometimes. I just have a lot to say. It's hard for me to go on podcasts because I really want to talk a lot, and but I don't want to talk over other people. So I like having the ability to just talk to you guys and just speak if I need to speak. Do you think Pro exclusives is really likely? I think it's an interesting thought, at least. Yeah, I do think it's likely. Just because of where Nintendo is in the stream of time with the Switch and when it was released at the end, towards the end of the current generation, and it already was substantially less powerful than the PlayStation 4. Switch is about 4 times less powerful than PS4, or 4 or 5 times less powerful. And we're already getting PlayStation 5. Just 3 years after or so, that's the launch of the Switch. So the way this console generation has gone for Nintendo, the way that the chip that they chose, there's all these things that don't normally happen for a Nintendo generation of consoles. You have the Tegra X1 processor, which is not made by Nintendo, which is a custom chip that was released in early 2015. It's already 4 years old. You have the fact that they purchased that from NVIDIA, used it in Switch, which they did not design themselves. It was not even designed to be able to be porting games from PlayStation 4 in the first place. Tegra X1 was designed as a 7th generation console port, mobile port device. Basically, it was designed to be able to run Xbox 360 games, which it does very well, and Wii U games on the Switch. That's what it was designed for. Yeah, good night, man. Thanks for coming by, Enrico. Appreciate the support. So you got that variable that was never done before by Nintendo that they chose to do because they were in a bad spot with the Wii U and they wanted to make a lot of money quickly, which they did. You have that variable. Then you have the time variable of them releasing so late in the lifespan of PS4, which they've never done before for one of their home consoles. I don't think they've ever released a home console this late. I don't know if you can, because the Wii U is technically a 8th generation console by Nintendo. They released it a year before the PS4. So their timing is all screwed up, guys. So for all those reasons, not a custom chip by Nintendo, not made by Nintendo, not designed for PS4, designed for 360 ports, timing of release of the current generation of Switch. For all those reasons, guys, do I think Switch Pro will have exclusive games that could be compatible with PS5 because of that reason? I think it's possible, yeah. Because of the variables just mentioned. If they released a Switch that was already compatible with all PS4 games in 2017, then I don't think they would be releasing a Switch Pro right now. I think they would be waiting until like 2022, 2023, until the PS4 completely went off and stopped getting ports. Basically, they wouldn't need to have an upgraded console. They could actually wait until 2022 or so, a couple years into the PS5 lifespan, and then when finally the PS4 died and stopped getting all the games, because the PS4 is extremely successful console. I do think it'll be around until 2022, getting games at least. So for them to not have a console that's even on par with PS4 when they released the Switch in the first place, it's getting overlapped already by PS5 3 years later. For all these variables, guys, it's very likely that they could be releasing a system they never have released before in that sense as an upgrade. You guys got to consider all the possibilities. Again, though, I'm not saying that you have to believe that either. You can believe whatever you want, and if that's not the case that they're doing that, I'm not saying that they are for sure doing that. I'm just not dismissing that fact, because those are facts that they have never done before for Nintendo. So all these things are possible, guys. Yeah, I get you, man. Mariko. Mariko isn't being designed by Nintendo just for Switch. It's being designed by NVIDIA for multiple devices, including the Switch revision. Well, actually, we don't know about that either, to tell you the truth. Because they've already revised. There was evidence that was brought out in one of Spawnway's videos, I think last year, that they already revised the Switch, I think, to correct some of the piracy. So we don't know about that yet either, Zachary. You have to wait about that, because it does look like they're developing a custom chip. We'll have to wait and see exactly all the details of what they're developing. Thanks, Pikmin, for your compliments. I appreciate it. Yeah, I try to learn from my mistakes. I definitely went too hard in one way in 2016, so I won't do that again. You gotta learn from your mistakes, which is what I was talking about. Is that which is unfortunate that people out there in YouTube land and websites are completely dismissing the one side that I'm not dismissing, which is that they could have a more powerful system than what you may think, because it is possible. Review Tech USA, that's exactly what he rumored in 2018, is that the Switch Pro would be able to play PlayStation 5 games and have raw power similar to PlayStation 4 in order to prolong the life of the Switch generation or model, whatever you want to call it. So his rumor was dismissed by people for some reason. I mean, obviously they didn't believe it. But when you think about where the technology is going, how all the advancements brought out, I did another video, of course, like I talked about before, about how Apple has released their next iPad tablet for $399. I think it's the iPad Mini, which has the Bionic chip in there, which they said has Xbox One S level performance for $399. So, is the technology possible? Yes. So we'll have to wait and see what Nintendo does. You cannot dismiss stuff. Otherwise, you'll be making a Super Metal Dave mistake from 2016 if you do. By dismissing one thing over another. See? I got you. Learn from your mistakes. All right. So Jason Crawford, they'll announce new Switch for $399. Maybe. I would say that's probably likely if it's upgraded enough. I could see them definitely doing $399. If it has all those bells and whistles like we talked about, absolutely. If it has AAA third-party support for those big games that just can't run on the current Switch, again, not up to Nintendo, up to third parties. So third party says, yeah, we would love to. We have nothing wrong with nothing against you, Nintendo. We would like to put our games in there. We want to make money too. But your system is just too darn difficult to port to. Give us something we can use to port our new games to, and we'll give you ports. Nintendo be like, all right, fine. Here's a system that can run current gen and next gen games as well. Just at lower settings and 720p, 900p, 1080p. Here you go. Fine. We want your money too. So let's go ahead and do that. And they'll say, okay, great. Here's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4. Here's Jedi Fallen Order. Here's the next Battlefield. Here's the next Red Dead Redemption. Here's the next Grand Theft Auto. Here's the key games that you want, that you've been asking for, but we're not going to port to the original Switch because, sorry, Nintendo, but your system is 38 times less powerful than PS5. You see? and Nintendo is like, well, all right, you got us. We'll go ahead and upgrade our system to what's needed, but we need to wait for the fabrication process from these companies. We need to wait for the technology to upgrade. So do what you can for the current Switch, and then when we have the technology available, we'll give you the upgraded Switch. So you're seeing games like Doom, Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, Mortal Kombat 11. Certain games are being really, really worked on hard by Panic Button and certain companies to run on the current Switch at extremely low resolutions that even the Wii U didn't reach. So, yeah, they're making a lot of compromises to get these games running on the Switch because the system's selling good, but quite frankly, third party is just not going to do it for all their games. And they've obviously made Nintendo aware of this by now. It's been over 2 years. It's not going to get any better as we go to PlayStation 5. Switch OG, as it currently stands, ain't going to get those games, guys. Zero. It won't get any of those ports. Unless they're like very simply made games, obviously indie games. But there's even, come to think of it, there's that new racing game that was released by the former developers of Burnout for PlayStation, Xbox One, PS4 Pro, and Xbox One X, which was basically an indie game. But it's not coming to Switch because it can't, obviously, probably can't run on the system. I forgot what it was called, but Digital Foundry did a comparison of it. But it's running basically new, updated graphics, and that's from an indie developer. That's not coming to the Switch. So, Dangerous Driving, thank you. Unless it is coming to the Switch and they just announced it. I haven't seen anything though. But yeah, so you're even seeing some indie games that are not being ported to the Switch. Uh-oh, what are you going to do then? If you take away the indie games, what are you going to do then? Nintendo has to do something, guys. Come on. Let's be real. Let's live in reality here. It's not out of the realm of thinking that they're going to be upgrading something that quite possibly could be running new games, not just old ports from last gen. All right, Dave, as a Metroid fan, did you wrap your hands around Metroid Prime Pinball? Yes, I did. I love that game. That might be the best pinball game ever made. But maybe I'm biased because I'm a Metroid fan. But that was actually a really good game. I'm not kidding. Bayonetta 3, that should be coming to Switch Pro, right? So here's the thing about Switch and Switch Pro. If you think about all the possibilities, let's say for some reason, let's throw some crazy number out there. Let's say the Switch Pro is PS5 in power, 15 to 20 teraflops, 8K resolution, all that crazy stuff. That Switch Pro will still get all the first party games that are on the original Switch. It'll still get all the indie games on the original Switch. The power difference means nothing because those third party games wouldn't come to the original Switch anyway. So technically, I'm just saying Nintendo could theoretically make Switch Pro as powerful, sky high as they want. And they would not get those third party games either way on the original Switch, regardless of how powerful the system is. You see? Because that original system is simply, the third parties have already made their minds up to not put games on that system. They're going on to the next gen. So Switch Pro, if it gets exclusive third-party games, we're putting the if out there, speculation. If it gets AAA third-party games that aren't going to be running on the original Switch anyway, theoretically the power doesn't matter. They can make it as powerful as they want. You see? It's kind of weird when you think about it that way, but that is actually true. If they're going to allow exclusive games on Switch Pro, then the sky's the limit on the power they could use for the system. Interesting thought. However, if they're going for a marginal upgrade only, and they're really wanting all those games to still run on the original Switch, even ones from third party, and they're gonna force them to do so, which I don't think they have ever forced third parties to only make games for one system. And they have multiple systems, like new 3DS is a good example. They didn't do that with that. But let's say they forced them to make their third party games for the original Switch and the Switch Pro. Third party will say no because they can't run those games. They're not going to port CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 to the original Switch because it's going to cost them way too much money. So Nintendo's going to say, we made a console that's just powerful enough to run these PlayStation 5 games, but you got to also port to the original Switch. That's not realistic for third parties. They're going to say no every time. I'm trying to reason with you guys to see what the difference is of why they may be doing one thing over another. A marginal upgrade would not give you any third-party support extra than what it's already getting. A large upgrade will, as long as you're willing to accept that those games will never come to the original Switch in the first place. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. So the power limit is the sky for the Switch Pro if they want it to be. Lucifer, Nintendo selected over their third-party games. It's not the other way around. Not really, because they just said last year in an interview with Reggie, who's now gone, that Nintendo wants all third-party on their console. Not only that, but the new 3DS is proof that that's not the case because they've allowed them to put their own games on the new 3DS exclusively without having them on the original 3DS. Okay. Let's see. With the larger file sizes of the next-gen software, do you see Switch Pro sticking with the cartridges? I think it has to stay with cartridges for now because it's going to be most likely a portable device. The only other option would be to go all digital, which I also don't think they're going to do. So, man, that's the one problem they have is the cartridge issue. But good news is these flash storage devices are getting really cheap. So they may be able to get to a 64 gigabyte cartridge and lower the cost. So many questions. Let's see. How would Switch Pro make our current James Jarvis? How would Switch Pro make our current games perform better when the games are already programmed a certain way? Simple word, patch. Little old patchy patch. Even overclocking the Switch. Modern Gaming, who's had his YouTube videos removed by Nintendo for homebrew stuff, sad, overclock the Switch and it gets automatically improved performance up to a certain degree, and then it stops at 720p on Doom and Wolfenstein 2. So they would require a patch. Okay. Yeah, 256 gigabyte micro SD cards, $31. Yeah, you see what I mean, guys? The prices for flash storage is going way down. So theoretically, they could lower the prices of cartridges for Switch Pro. I do think it will need to have 64 gigabyte cartridges as a standard on a lot of these games, unless they do the whole, download some and we'll give you part on the cartridge, or also increase the storage capacity of the Switch Pro, which is one of my most wanted things of the Switch Pro is have increased storage capacity, hopefully 512 gigabytes at least. Yep. Ocarina of Time N64. CD Projekt Red did hint that there was a more powerful NX in development. That's basically a fact. So they heard something. I have a video on that last year. That was my mysterious is Cyberpunk 2077 coming to Switch Pro video. Cool video. I liked it. That I made for myself. a lot of these videos I make for myself. I know some of you guys will not like the videos, but a lot of these things I just make for myself because I like the idea of it, and I like creating things. And if you guys don't like it, that's fine. Thank you for the super chat, $10. D and Megas Dan. Beauty of a new powerful Switch Pro is that many Xbox, PS4, and PC owners will get one. We all want those games on the go. It's a win for third-party companies to port to a more powerful Switch. I agree. Thanks again for your support. Do you think the new Wi-Fi will help Nintendo move to streaming gaming? No, I think not necessarily. I think it'll help battery life. If you saw my newest video, the new Wi-Fi that just was released, coincidentally in January, by coincidence, I keep saying the wrong thing, sorry. By coincidence, in January, Wi-Fi 6 was the same time Nintendo has been hired for someone to work on Wi-Fi for this new console. So Wi-Fi 6 uses less battery power for portable devices, and it has increased capacity for signals in your home, basically. So whether or not you agree or disagree with what the Switch currently has for its Wi-Fi capabilities, it's up to you. But there has factually been reports and documented experiences from fans who have poor Wi-Fi quality at their own home with the device sitting right next to their Wi-Fi router because of, for whatever reason, there's interference. It's not working correctly. It's just not good. I've heard of even people getting just like 2 bars on their Wi-Fi, even with it sitting right next to the Wi-Fi router. So something's up there. They need to update their Wi-Fi controller on the system, what have you. But they are factually working on improving the Wi-Fi in a new piece of hardware coming, which is most likely the Switch Pro and Switch Mini. Wi-Fi 6 would fix that problem immensely because it allows for multiple devices to be connected to your same router, much more than what is currently available in Wi-Fi 5, and decreases battery usage. Fantastic. They got to be using that in the new Switch because it makes absolute perfect sense, and I would love for them to have that. Also with Bluetooth. And a D-pad. Yes, I agree. Switch 2 will be all digital. Nintendo will have no choice to compete in the market. You know, they may have to go all digital in the future, but they really need some type of way to combat that as far as the possibility of losing your games in the future. That's scary, right? But when you think about it, they already are kind of doing that with your cartridges because you're buying Switch games that require you to download half or 3/4 of the game already. When those servers go out, you're done. Your game's gone, even if you have the cartridge. So it's a kind of a bad situation Nintendo's in. They may need to figure something out there, have some kind of guarantee that you will keep your games, enable you to back up your saves locally. All those things are really important because if they turn those servers off in the future, guys, you realize all that money you just spent on all these Switch games, all that money you spent on buying SD cards, all that money you spent gone because you can't get those games back. Painful. So yeah, it's scary to think about that. So there needs to be some kind of reassurance for that to happen because it is a worry that a lot of people have. You have 832 games for Switch. Prove it. No, I'm kidding. No. Nintendo still need Madden. I'm going up here a little bit. Yeah, so I hope what I said makes sense to you guys. Let me know if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, let me know why it doesn't have sense. Yeah, it's okay. I believe you have your games. Don't worry about it. If what I said about the power level of the Switch Pro not mattering, it could be as powerful as Nintendo wants it because those games will not come to Switch anyway. If you don't understand that aspect, let me know. But I talked about it a little bit in my other live stream because there was a concern from somebody that what about that user base that would be left behind for the current Switch OG, right? And that simply doesn't matter because they can't get the games in the first place on the original system. So you're not really being left behind if you're not getting those games anyway. And developers aren't going to spend all their money downporting a game or remaking a game from scratch for the original Switch if it's not cost effective. They're spending so much money in development. They could theoretically make Cyberpunk 2077 for the original Switch, give it its own version of the game like from scratch, like the Wii had some games like that. Probably won't sell hardly anything compared to the full grandiose amazing version that is coming, the one that looks really cool. Probably won't sell that much and will cost them way too much money to make exclusively for the Switch like that. So man, it's just not the same as the Wii days, guys. It's just not happening. Developers are just not going to spend their money like that, knowing it's not going to sell and make the money back to them in the future. Didn't Nintendo say earlier last year that 64 carts delayed due to the earthquake? No, that was they delayed their Nintendo Direct because of an earthquake, I think, or a tsunami. It was one of those. Some kind of natural disaster happened. They delayed a Nintendo Direct because of that, if you guys recall, which was good. I'm getting a Cyberpunk on PC. You'll have to see. They're releasing it on everything except for the Switch so far. In my video I did, which was that mysterious spooky video I did last year, they said that they don't plan to support Nintendo Switch currently, they said, but they kind of hinted that it may change in the past, in the future, which you could speculate on that if they were hinting at a Switch Pro, new hardware, who knows. But yeah, if Switch Pro, let's put it this way, if Switch Pro allows for current generation PlayStation 4 games to be ported easily to it, then I do think it'll get Cyberpunk 2077 as well, because that is also coming to PlayStation 4 anyway. So if Switch Pro allows easily for any PlayStation 4 game to be ported to the system easily, you're going to be getting a lot of cool games on Switch Pro that you will never have gotten on Switch OG that you currently have. Nobody's going to be left behind because you'll still be able to play those same indie games and first-party games on the Switch Pro. They would never be going to the original Switch in the first place. It's a mental thing that's hard to wrap your head around, because that's why I'm talking to you guys live here. But if you understand it in that way, it kind of makes sense due to the timing aspect, chip aspect that they chose. It makes sense that they would do that, even though you would think they wouldn't do that. The way they went about things with the Switch in the first place, that might be what they do. Maybe. Not saying they will for sure. Not saying they won't for sure. It's up to you to decide, and it's up to you to wait and see. Okay. That wasn't CD Projekt Red Deadlock 7 that said that, though. Maybe you said something else in the chat I missed. But we are always interested in new hardware. That is potentially a big hint. Yeah. Who said that? That was Bethesda with the possibility of porting Rage 2 to the Switch. They said no, but we're always interested in new hardware. I was tempted to do a video on that, but that was a little bit reaching too much there because they weren't too clear, but it was pretty much a hint in relation to Nintendo Switch, a Nintendo Switch question. about Rage 2 coming to the Switch. They said no, but we're always just interested in new hardware. And that was right after the Wall Street Journal said that a Switch Pro is coming. So does that mean they're going to get a port for Switch Pro? Maybe, maybe not. It's weird though, isn't it? And whatever your thought is about whatever ports coming to the Switch Pro or not, that's your own opinion. Like, if they do allow for that, they're going to have a game they're going to like, obviously, eventually. One of the games you're going to really want. Super Switch. Man. All right. Well, this is 2.5 hours long, so I'm going to get going, guys. Thank you all for coming by. Appreciate the time you gave coming here. I know a lot of questions. Hopefully I answered your questions good enough and explained what I could good enough. Hit the like button, please, if you did enjoy the video. I'm going to do a video, though, going over all the things that Nintendo is hiring for this potential new Switch Pro. So look forward to that. It may take me a little while. But yeah, go ahead and give the video a like, share it if you can. This is a live stream, so yeah, go ahead and share the video and do what you can to support. And we'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Have a great day, guys. Take care.